Hello.
Hey, everybody.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hunt for Harmony.
We want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight.
Thank you.
New viewers, we thank you. Our viewers who follow us, we thank you as well.
Thank you.
We ask that you will take a second to
Please.
subscribe and like and share.
Subscribe.
All right. I'm James Hunt.
I am Jaqua.
And we are not therapists, ministers, pastors, counselors. We are marriage coaches. Okay. We've been married 27 years, and we want to share our experiences and our thoughts on some things to help you try to create the marriage you want.
Yes.
All right.
You looked at me. You were waiting for me to say
Yeah,
it.
I was waiting for you to say it, but you didn't catch on to it that time.
I didn't catch it that time.
All
I
right.
did not.
But again, we thank everybody, and we would just want everybody to just open your hearts and open your minds and try and receive what we say.
Yeah.
This is what we share, actually. And some of those things, you've heard many times before. Sometimes, those when you hear things over and over again, it elicits a different thought in your mind. So yeah, just listen and hope you guys enjoy it. Last week we talked about
Family
history and how your upbringing,
And actually, not just family history, but your spouse's history.
your spouse's history, and how they were brought up, and the experiences that they may have had that influenced who they are.
And how understanding that, their history, helps you to understand the things that you see play out in your marriage, and how your history and understanding your history helps to explain the way you act in your marriage.
And knowing those things can definitely contribute to improving the marriage. I mean, we had, one gentleman to comment and thank us for the topic, because he had the opportunity to share with his wife.
Right.
And
And that's the bottom line. You may feel like, okay, some of these things aren't relevant, but if it gives you the opportunity to discuss some things with your spouse, then we've done our job. Because all we want to do is, start a conversation, get some discussion going, and try to understand what's going on in your marriage.
So what's on tap for tonight?
So that being said, kind of got us thinking about people who have not yet found themselves in a marriage, and for some reason you feel like you want to join that exclusive club of being married. So we thought, we direct it to people who are planning to be married or thinking about getting married or want to be married. But then also, as I was thinking about it, it really too is for people who have been married, already married.
And these things were never considered.
Right. And these things were never considered. You didn't talk about it because you didn't know to talk about it. I'm sure you've learned that you needed to talk about it now.
Right.
And so it's never too late to have that conversation. Okay. Never too late to have that conversation. And so there are several different areas. I'll start with, well, not necessarily in this order, but 3 things will be mentioned here. And this is something we learned years ago from our was it premarital class? No, I think it probably was just the pastor we were under at that time. Okay. He said people marry for 3 reasons.
Yeah.
And that people divorce for 3 reasons. And it's not a coincidence that they are the same. It's sex, finances, and religion.
And religion.
Sex, finances, and religion. So a lot of times people get married, sex, finances, religion. A lot of people end up in divorce, sex, finances, and religion. In our course, when we're working with clients, we say that usually we always ask, what do you think the disruption was in your marriage? And they usually fall under 5 categories: sex, finances, religion, but also children and behavior, just, personal behavior, are usually the categories. So to start, of course, family history. If you are not spending time with your soon-to-be spouse's family, you need to do that.
Yeah, this is not the family history where, this is how your spouse was raised.
Right.
This is you spending time with your prospective spouse's family so that you can see how they interact, so you can see how they respond to disagreements, to see how they respond to one another when things just aren't going their way.
Right. And what you'll learn by default some history. You'll learn stories about when they were younger, things that came up, and that is a window into your prospective spouse's soul. But again, if you're already married, it still is a window into your spouse's soul. Those things that not necessarily are being kept secret, but you don't even think to mention.
Right.
You don't think about it. But when you're around family, when you see them around family and you have that opportunity to interact, then things just come up by default.
Right. That's why it's always important to take your spouse or, your fiance, girlfriend around your family and vice versa, because things are shown.
Yeah.
The more time you spend with them, the more you learn about the family dynamics.
Right.
And how that could play a part in your marriage. And you have to decide, do I want to have to deal with this one day? Because there's a chance I'll have to deal with this one day.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now, and if some of these other things you think may not matter, and truly, they could not matter. But whatever it is that you believe does matter, talk about it now, because if you are on the other side already, you realize, you understand that anything, no matter how big or small, is
Magnified.
How would I say magnetized?
Magnified. Yes.
In marriage. So, little things that probably don't even, register become this big thing or become a thing. And things that do register become even bigger in marriage. So anyway, back to it. So of course, you're addressing the family history, the family dynamic, and being around family. Right. The second thing, children.
I'm sorry.
Oh, what?
Don't use the excuse, I don't like being around your family because they act like such and such. That's why you need to be around them.
That's why you need to be around them.
Right. That is why you need to be around them.
Right. Yeah. So
don't
please
isolate yourself from
don't isolate yourself from the family, because at the end of it all,
they're going to be family.
It's going to be family. So got to deal with them now. Second, children. Please talk about children, how many you want, how many you don't want, whether you really like girls or you really prefer boys, how you're going to raise them, if you want them in child care, if you want them homeschooled. All of those things are important.
Right.
And so many people don't address it because you figure, oh, we're not having children now. But if you plan to have children at some point, or if you don't plan to have children at all,
right,
it's important.
But don't do this. This is a big problem.
What?
Never have children to save a marriage.
Ooh.
Do not use children to try and replace something or to add something more exciting, to the marriage, because that you brought that child into a situation where it's almost like a pawn. And that's not how you want to view your children. You don't want your spouse to despise your child, so never ever have a baby.
Right. And think about it this way. You're going to bring someone into something that you yourself are trying to get out of. So,
or questioning getting
or
out
right,
of.
or questioning getting out of. So, yes, please don't.
Yeah, if I have a baby, then that might change. He might stay or she might stay. If I
Right.
give her, if I decide, we will have a child and yeah.
And that's why discussing it beforehand is important.
Right.
If you want children, if you don't want children, how many children, all things about children. Talk about it beforehand. Okay?
Next one is education.
Education.
Education is one of those things that it's tough in a lot of situations because let's say you're educated and your spouse is not. You have a college degree, your spouse was a college dropout. You're going to view things differently. You've had different experiences. Let's say your spouses or your fiance, soon to be husband or wife, their family is not a family that has been educated. Nobody has more than a high school diploma.
Or maybe not even a high school diploma.
Or maybe not even high school diploma. They're going to view you differently, just based on how you might respond to things and, how you might just question some things. They will develop an opinion. They will form an opinion about you because of that.
Right.
And it's not always a good opinion. You might think you're better than us. And so those things have to be, evaluated. So what about religion versus relationship?
Religion versus relationship. If religion is important to you, and by religion I mean that your family gets up every Sunday and you go to church together. Your family, gets up after church, you go to dinner, or you go to Big Mama's house for dinner, or whatever it is,
Right.
whatever the tradition in your family is. And I relate that to religion because a lot of times religion is for a show. So I'm talking about the legalistic part of religion. You got to go to church. You got to say your prayers at night. You got to go to Bible study, and they expect to see you there. You got to sing in the choir or serve on the usher board or be a trustee. You're working on being a deacon or deaconess in the family. Versus relationship. So do you have a relationship with Christ? Is that what is important to you? Like, is it really necessary for your spouse to get up and go to church every Sunday? Are you going to be upset if that doesn't happen? Really evaluate that because it will make a difference in your marriage. If you're going every Sunday and every time the door is open, you are there versus, having that quality relationship with your spouse. With Christ. It makes a difference. It makes a big difference.
And I'll say this, your potential spouse is, a Christian. They consider themselves a religious person. But you have to, too, evaluate, what is that commitment? What is that commitment to Christ? Mm-hmm. Because, sometimes we say we love the Lord and we want to do what's right, but our commitment is not there to convict us when we need convicting. An example would be, your spouse is this religious person and, say they love the Lord but they're not committed enough to the Lord to keep from, being an infidel.
Okay.
Because you might not be giving them or doing what they want during this time. Any little thing that comes along that might seem attractive or different, they kind of fall to it. Mm-hmm. And not to say that, this was an intentional thing,
right?
But because that commitment level to Christ wasn't there, they couldn't recognize the okie doke,
right?
Because that's what it is. Satan is going to present you with some of the things you think you're missing in your marriage. And so it takes that commitment to the Lord to say, you know what, I'm not falling for this.
I'm not falling for the 20%.
So make sure their commitments are where they need to be.
Right.
In order for your marriage to work.
Right. So, really, and this is a tough one for some people because if you really evaluate it and you determine that religion and the looks of religion and the acts of religion are really important to you and sometimes maybe actually more important than a relationship with Christ. Right. So you really need to evaluate that.
Right.
You do. Money. Who's going to take care of the money? Are you going to join your money? Are you going to leave it separate? Are you going to have a certain amount that you have to speak about before spending it? Are you allowed to just spend at will? Go crazy.
All of that can cause some huge problems.
Ooh, yes, Lord.
And one of the other things that's, it's been said a billion times,
What?
I'm upset because you make more money than me.
Oh,
That to me, that's the dumbest thing in the world.
it is. That's well, and don't say dumb, because somebody
Okay.
might be sitting there and going like, "That's not dumb. That's for real."
Thoughtless, I would say.
Yeah, because if you're sharing, I should say, if you're sharing resources,
Which you should be.
because if you make 50 and I make 50, then we make 100 together. Oh, I guess that's not a good example if it's even. So if you make 50 or you make 80 and I make 20, we still make $100,000 together.
Right.
So, I mean, to me, that doesn't matter.
And that doesn't give one person
Control.
control of what happens with the money.
Right.
That's where the problem comes in. Well, I
Right.
make most of the money,
So I get to spend it how I want
decide
to.
how it gets spent.
Right.
So
Let's talk about sex, baby.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about sex. So, what's your thought?
Sex is a big deal. You need to talk about, I know a lot of people don't want to talk about oh, it should be spontaneous. But you need to talk about how often you expect that you're going to have sex. Because it might be two times a week might be normal for somebody. And then you might have a spouse that says 2 times. I was thinking 5. Y'all need to come to an agreement.
Right, because that is the big problem.
You need to come to an agreement.
That's a big problem.
And then it really, of course, you don't always know, because when you have children, it's going to change. Different jobs and your hours and all of that is going to change your interaction, blah, blah, blah. But you want to at least have a discussion about the expectation and, sex versus intimacy and, what all that means to you, what all that means to your spouse. That's a conversation to be had.
Yeah, because you're gonna have to understand one another.
So, guys, take it into consideration. Talk about everything before you say, I do. And just as a reminder, please, please, please support us. If you like what you heard, subscribe. If you didn't like what you heard, leave us a comment. Let us know.